Oh, you guys know you're in for a spooky review with this sort of lighting. Saint Maud is a recently released indie horror film distributed by A24. It's technically a 2019 film because it premiered at Toronto International Film Festival in September of that year, but it was released in the UK in late 2020. It's been compared to films like Midsummer, Hereditary and Suspiria, which are also recent A24 horror films. Saint Maud is in the same vein as those films, so it's for good reason that they've been compared. It's very well made, it's slow, subtle, disturbing on a deeper level, intelligent. We've been going through a mini horror renaissance with all these recent films, and Saint Maud is another example of this positive trend. Make horror great again. It doesn't have any jump scares, it isn't just creepy in the most surface level way possible like so many other horror films. It's just a nice little low budget British film. It's a fantastic movie. So the film's about this young woman called Maud. She seems to be an extremely devout Christian. She's just taken on a job as a private nurse for this terminally ill woman called Amanda. She used to work at a hospital, but something horrific happened, causing her to leave. That's all I'm going to say for now. The film's only around 85 minutes long. Just some initial positives. It's very well shot, very well acted.
I looked her up before I came here. Dancer, choreographer, minor celebrity. As you know, I have little time for creative types as they tend to be rather self-involved.
Morford Clark is fantastic. She's portraying quite a unique female character. It's a refreshingly original kind of performance. I really liked the film's location as well. It felt very personable and distinct. It helped to accentuate the film's atmosphere. There's some really awesome and effective use of cinematography and framing to convey the main character's disconnect from the rest of society. It's a small cast, which is obviously down to budgetary reasons, but that still works to the film's advantage. It complements the themes. Maud is supposed to be completely isolated from the rest of society, both physically and mentally. The film is very similar to The Witch, which is also an A24 film. The Witch is a perfect movie for me. I wouldn't say Saint Maud is quite on that same level, but I still think it's awesome. I'd recommend it to just about anyone. You should all definitely check this film out. It'd be good if as many people as possible saw it.
Your bedroom's upstairs on the left. Her Majesty's in there having a nap.
How is she?
Bit of a cunt.
There are of course some really interesting themes that I just want to briefly touch on, so spoiler warning. It's a cool, fucked up take on a crisis of faith story. The most clear and surface level theme is the horrific consequences of utter religious devotion. It's a character study centred around Maud. Maud is incapable of connecting with other human beings or having any significant meaning in life, so she relies on her faith, relies on God, for meaningful purpose and something that resembles the sort of relationship you'd have with another human being.
Dear God, watch over me as I embark on this next posting. Think I'll have to get up at about 6 tomorrow.
This is why she also has to receive sexual satisfaction from pleasing God, because she can't extract that kind of pleasure from an actual person. Throughout the film, she persistently attempts to obtain significant experiences out of life, and one after the other she utterly fails, further relying on her God to fill that void in her soul. You can see this straight away with the simple fact that she's a nurse. The first and obvious reason she's a nurse is because it's a virtuous role in society and she's trying to please God. She's a private nurse that previously worked at a hospital. You start to see that she's been persistently attempting to garner a meaningful experience out of life.
Forgive me my impatience, but I hope you will reveal your plan for me soon.
She tried to get it from saving lives at the hospital, and now she's caring for Amanda, who is terminally ill, being in the presence of life and then the presence of death. I'd say that all of the negative attributes to Maud's mentality are self-inflicted. Her self-inflicting nature is a recurrent theme throughout the narrative. There are many instances where she both physically and psychologically abuses herself when she feels like she's been failing God. She's full to the brim of self-loathing and constantly punishes herself, hence she suffers from an immense amount of guilt and insecurity. But then there's the flip side to this mentality, with the times where she thinks she's pleasing God and acting in accordance with his will. Maud's character has one of the strongest cases of religious narcissism out of all recent media. She's utterly self-righteous and looks down on everyone around her.
Am I indecent?
No, you're lost.
a nasty side effect of believing she's the only person living a morally upright life. In the segments of the narrative where she is living by what she thinks is God's will, she's the other extreme, totally self-rewarding and self-aggrandizing, to the point where she receives some form of psychosomatic sexual gratification from carrying out such deeds. The orgasms she receives from these episodes seem to be so powerful they actually overwhelm her to the extent of almost incapacitating her. It even distorts her face slightly. Fuck. You could take this as her ridiculously inflated ego and sense of honourable purpose being so vast that it physically overpowers her, or you could say it comes from somewhere else. Maud attaches her self-abusing / self-rewarding tendencies to the external figure of God, when in fact it's probably all her doing. She just isn't aware of that or chooses not to be.
No one sees what they don't want to.
However, there are a few hints to the idea that it might be in fact Satan she's communicating and interacting with throughout the film rather than God, as her actions and sensibilities are dreadfully dangerous and destructive. Maud is the very opposite of enlightened, which is a persona you can attribute to a figure such as Satan. It could either be a self-inflicting abusive relationship with God, or an actual abusive relationship with Satan, or some other evil.
Oh, shit.
Another important aspect to Maud's character is her inability to receive any form of emotion, pleasure or pain from life / other human beings. She actively isolates herself from society, probably to repress the fact that she can't connect with people. Herself, her faith and her God is all she focuses her mind on. Most other things are entirely unimportant or non-essential to her, and there's some great uses of framing in this film to accentuate these themes. We see it with the scene where we first see her former colleague from the hospital she used to work at.
Katie? Katie!
We hear this person's voice before we see her, and the camera stays locked on Maud for as long as it can before Maud is forced to interact with her old co-worker.
How's it going? It's been ages.
Surviving.
Katie? Katie!
Everything associated with the hospital Maud associates with this prior event that we get vague references to throughout the film. Whilst there's a lot of speculation to be done as to what exactly happened at this hospital, all I'm going to say for now is that out of all the things that it could have been, it was definitely some sort of failure for Maud. A failure to find purpose, meaning or emotional fulfillment, or all three.
What happened before? It wasn't your fault, I know that.
Whatever it was, it led to her leaving her job at the hospital and becoming a private nurse for Amanda. The film's narrative consists of her continued attempts, followed by her continued failures at cultivating a significant experience out of life. There's a scene where she goes to a pub to seduce some fuckboys. Real sex with actual people does nothing for her, at least in the heterosexual context. She can't get anything out of the physical world, so she has to derive it from a religious figure.
Most of the time, it's just like he's physically in me or around me. It's how he guides me. Like when he's pleased, it's like a shiver, or sometimes it's like a pulsing, and it's all warm and good, and he's just there.
Her religion is also the only way she finds purpose in life. She's a pious bitch who looks down on all other people for their alternative lifestyles. She has obvious disdain for Amanda's homosexuality. This is very ironic considering Maud receives sexual gratification from doing what she thinks is her God's bidding. It is very possible that she has deep-seated lesbian feelings that she is fiercely repressing, causing her to mentally implode. Embracing her lesbian self might have been the answer to all of her existential problems. Whoopsie, too late. This film is about a failure at being in touch with oneself and all those around them, sectioning off your mind, body and soul to a dim, misguided space, giving yourself no chance to escape from your own delusion until you end up dead or in some form of hell. It's a criticism of religion, namely the self-abuse that comes with an extreme devotion to some form of ideological figure, as well as the narcissism. It's a character study of a young woman with her own messed up substitute of the human experience.
There is more, and not just afterwards. He's everywhere. He sees you. He won't let you fall.
I think I like it a bit more now after writing all this. There was also that green tinted colour grading in certain scenes. It'd be cool to figure out exactly what that was about, what each of those scenes had in common thematically. Maybe I'll figure that out in editing and put some text on the screen.
Hello?
Overall, I think this film's great. I really liked it, but I think it could have benefited from being a bit longer, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. Characters could have been more fleshed out. It might have been able to expand on the central themes with a little more complexity. I don't quite think it's a masterpiece. I really want to think it is. I think I strongly like this film, but I'm not sure I love it. Again, just certain ideas could have been expanded on. It doesn't quite have the same level of intrigue and depth as The Witch did. For the most part, it is this singular theme of her being a religious nut. I have only seen the film once, but I didn't finish it thinking I'd missed one of the central themes. But then again, I am quite retarded, so who knows. There's still so much to love about this film, and the time flies by. It's also Rose Glass's debut feature film, which is really impressive. This shows great signs of potential for her career. I look forward to her future projects. New Kid on the Block. I recommend everyone watch Saint Maud. It's the best recently released film in a while. It's going to be among a lot of people's favourite films of 2020. For a lot of people, it will be a masterpiece. Yeah, please check it out. It's really good. Treat yourself. Subscribe to Batcho and I'll give you a kiss.
Try and keep her off the sauce, the sauce, the sauce.